That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Alright guys, I am very glad that y'all like these videos. I've actually gotten so many responses telling me that these are your favorite kind of videos that I've been making every single week. And these videos are the ones that I get from Instagram, where I'll put something on my story, say swipe up and send me a screenshot of your fantasy football lineup, or swipe up, send me a trade question, swipe up, send me a start sit question, and we are going to continue to do these kinds of videos every single week. So if you're not following me on Instagram, I am going to leave it down in the comments below. Hopefully I remember to put it on the screen. But yeah, that's how we got all the lineups for this video. I'm going to go through and I'm going to not only grade the lineups, but at the same time, I am also going to be able to go and kind of give you advice on how I think you can make your overall fantasy football roster a little more optimal going into the bye weeks. But I will say I got a ton of submissions for this video. I probably got over 100 DMs with lineups. I was only able to go out there and pick 5, so I'm very sorry if I was not able to get to your lineup. As always, if you really want me to do this with your lineup as well, you can just submit it again next week. Hopefully I can get it then. If not, I will be going live on both Friday and Saturday night on 8:30 p.m. Central. Okay, now that's enough rambling. Let's get into these videos and let me pull up the first lineup. Hopefully I figure out how I can show the bench on the screen at the same time. But this first lineup is going to be featured off with Ryan Tannehill at the starting quarterback position. And I think with Ryan Tannehill, I mean, this is a quarterback that we are projecting to be a low-end quarterback 1, high-end quarterback 2 going forward. And I think it really makes sense to have him as your starting quarterback depending on your roster construction. Now, getting to this roster construction, this is why I actually like having Ryan Tannehill as the starting quarterback here. And that is because you have A.J. Brown as one of your top wide receivers. And when you have A.J. Brown as that wide receiver 1, I really like the idea of going out there and stacking with Ryan Tannehill, because we know with the talent that A.J. Brown has, yes, he has that potential to be a top 5 wide receiver overall in fantasy, but the only problem is we don't necessarily know if we can expect this Tennessee Titans offense to go out there and be pass heavy enough to support A.J. Brown to be that top 5 wide receiver. But in the situation where he is, you know that Ryan Tannehill is also going to be going out there and putting up quarterback 1 numbers for you. So I think it's a great way to increase your ceiling. It may lower your floor a little bit, but still at the same time, I just talk about this all the time. In fantasy football, I do not care what my floor is. I just am trying to have the best possible team possible. That sounded horrible. Sorry, I'm an idiot. But anyway, yeah, we are trying to go out there and we are really trying to hit that ceiling. That's what you have creating this stack. Now, at your secondary wide receiver position, you have Darius Slayton this week in your starting lineup. But on your bench, you actually have some other options. One in Keenan Allen. Obviously, we know Keenan Allen is on bye this week, so he will be your wide receiver 2 going forward. And your other wide receivers are Jerry Jeudy and Traquan Smith. Now, your running backs are Jonathan Taylor and David Montgomery. On your bench, you really don't have any other options outside of Phillip Lindsay. And I think that's going to be the overall theme where I think this team is a little bit weak. I think you do need to go out there and you desperately need to increase your depth at both your wide receiver and your running back position, because we love the top 3 running backs that you have in Jonathan Taylor, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and David Montgomery. But outside of that, you have no running back 4 to really be excited about. I mean, Phillip Lindsay is not the worst guy, especially with the recent news on Melvin Gordon. But if you are not going to have that extremely strong running back depth, I at least want to see depth at the wide receiver position. And here, you really only go 3 deep. So what I may advise doing is I may advise going out there and trying to move off of Eric Ebron, capitalize on some of that value for that tight end on your bench, and then just go out there and upgrade your wide receiver 4, maybe package together Eric Ebron and Darius Slayton to go out there and get a wide receiver that looks like they could be a potential low-end wide receiver 2. That would be something I would be extremely excited about for this roster, because we talk about this all the time. We want to have those 4 solid options at the wide receiver position, or we want to have those 4 solid options at the running back position. And currently you're sitting with 2 solid wide receivers, 3 solid running backs. I would love to go out there and make sure we can capitalize and get some depth going into the bye weeks. I mean, you're really going to need it. But in general, I think that we are going to have to come out and we're going to have to give this team a B-. I know, I'm very sorry that it may not necessarily hold up with where you were expecting that I was going. I like a couple of the things that you've done with the roster construction so far. I like the players, but I think in general, you're going to have to make some moves. Okay, now this is going to be our second roster, and what I like about this roster as well is just like we saw with the stack in the last roster, this roster has that same pairing with the quarterback and actually the running back position this time in Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones. And now generally, I know a lot of people don't necessarily think of stacking quarterback and running back, but I will say in the one specific instance that it makes sense is if you're going out there and stacking the quarterback with an elite pass catching running back like an Aaron Jones. We've already seen Aaron Jones go over for, I believe, 80 receiving yards in a week this season. That's going to drastically increase both the floor and the ceiling for Aaron Rodgers. So I love getting that correlation in my lineup. And then you also have Jonathan Taylor on your roster here. So we're looking at two potential running back ones going forward. Love your running back position. Now at your wide receiver, you have Tyreek Hill, Adam Thielen. I mean, it's just amazing. I mean, it's crazy that after looking at your running back top end production, you still are able to go out there and have Tyreek Hill at your wide receiver one. And y'all know I am generally a little bit lower than most people on Adam Thielen, but we can't ignore the fact that if you have him as your wide receiver two, that's a complete smash. Now you also have an elite level tight end. So I mean, man, this team is just absolutely ridiculous having Mark Andrews in here, and y'all know that I am of the opinion that Mark Andrews is that top 3 tight end going forward. I mean, the usage that he's seeing in this Baltimore Ravens offense is extremely encouraging for future fantasy success. And now what I love about this roster is what you actually did with the bench. And instead of going out there and getting a lot of guys with high floors, knowing that you already have a star loaded fantasy football lineup, I think that it's smart to go out there and use all your bench spots with just guys that have an insane amount of upside. And here you have Justin Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk, Damian Harris, Chase Edmonds, T. Higgins. I mean, that's a great way to go out there and optimize this roster. Man, I wish I could give you some ideas and moves to go out there and make, but genuinely, I love the way that you have this roster, and I think that we are going to have to rate it an A. I will say the one thing is, I don't necessarily know if I like going out there and carrying a Kirk Cousins instead of a backup tight end. I think maybe that last bench spot would be better off used if you are carrying a second tight end, and then if you ever have to bench Aaron Rodgers, which I don't see that happening unless we see an injury, because he's already gone past his bye week, you can go out there and just stream the position for the week. But man, with this roster, I think we have to give it an A. I mean, just absolutely fantastic. Okay, now let's bring up our third fantasy football roster. This is going to be led off with Matt Ryan in at quarterback, Ezekiel Elliott and James Robinson in at the running back position. And I mean, those are just two great guys to have as your starting running backs going forward. Matt Ryan is kind of... I think that I honestly may rather just stream the quarterback position, going out there and getting a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick for this week if we see Matt Ryan miss Julio Jones in week 6. Now, at your wide receiver, Allen Robinson, Devontae Parker. I mean, two guys that I expect to be at the very minimum top 15 wide receivers going forward. With Devontae Parker, we're a little less confident, but with Allen Robinson, I mean, man, he is that stone cold lock. Now, what I really love about this team is you have that wide receiver depth as well. You have Deontay Johnson and Tyler Lockett both on your bench. Obviously, Tyler Lockett is making your starting lineup in weeks that the Seattle Seahawks have a game. And then at your running back position behind Ezekiel Elliott and James Robinson, you have both Antonio Gibson and David Johnson. Also, you have Leonard Fournette and Joshua Kelly more as depth upside type pieces. Man, I really hate to just go out here and pat everyone on the back. Y'all know if you come out to the live streams very often, generally I kind of tear into these teams and just talk about what I don't like. But this is another scenario where, man, it's hard to find something I don't like on this roster. I will say having 6 quality running back options, yes, it's going to be very nice going into the bye weeks, but still at the same time, 6 is a little bit of overkill. I think what I would indeed do is go out there and package 2 of these running backs together to get an upgrade at the running back position. Maybe try to go out there and trade a Leonard Fournette and a David Johnson to go out there and get maybe a James Conner. That would be a lot more appealing. Or go out there and try to package maybe Leonard Fournette and Deontay Johnson and get that wide receiver upgrade as your 4th wide receiver. But outside of that, man, I mean, just an absolutely fantastic roster. I think that here we are going to end up having to give this roster, I want to say an A-. I mean, just the one problem is you don't have that locked and loaded quarterback. I think George Kittle is going to be that tight end 1 overall going forward. So, man, it's hard to poke holes in this roster. I will say the only thing is I think potentially you could go out there and you can capitalize on some of this running back depth to upgrade your positions elsewhere. Okay, this is going to be our last fantasy football roster that we are going to cover for this video. Very sorry if I was not able to get to yours in this video, but please go out there, just hang out with me in the live streams Friday and Saturday night at 8:30 p.m. Central, and I will definitely try to get to yours there. Now here we are going through and we are looking at the starting quarterback being Ben Roethlisberger. Clearly we see on the bench that he also has Russell Wilson, so Russell Wilson is going to be the starting quarterback going forward. But honestly, with Big Ben, I mean, this is a quarterback that I am extremely excited about now that Chase Claypool is fully emerged in this offense. I mean, it's going to be very hard for Ben Roethlisberger to fail when he has Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster, Chase Claypool, Eric Ebron, James Conner. I mean, just a fantastic roster by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then in at wide receiver, he has Kenny Golladay, Jamison Crowder, Terry McLaurin. Oh my God. And down below, Tim Patrick, Tyler Boyd. So here I'll say that with Tim Patrick, I know he's kind of intriguing going up against the New England Patriots if indeed we see KJ Hamler be inactive this game. But with KJ Hamler, if he is active, I believe that he is going to outsnap Tim Patrick going forward. So with Tim Patrick, not someone I'm excited about, but clearly you're really having to go out there and dig into your depth. You also have Alvin Kamara on this roster, so you are just... I mean, that flex spot could be ugly in week 6, and I don't think you can necessarily avoid it. Now, your running back spots, you have Mike Davis and David Montgomery. Clearly, with Mike Davis, I think this is maybe one of the last 2 weeks that we can go out there and play him. And this is why with pretty much every Mike Davis trade that I've been receiving lately in the live streams, I've been telling y'all to take the other side. But still, I mean, knowing that you have Alvin Kamara coming back, I think rolling out Alvin Kamara and David Montgomery week to week is going to be very, very advantageous. So, man, I will say my one piece of advice for this roster would actually be to go out there and upgrade your wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5. And I know generally I say that we are going out there and we are trying to have that magic number 4 for wide receivers, just 4 quality guys we can rely on. But here I'm going to say that depth is a lot more important at the wide receiver position, where you, instead of starting 2 wide receivers every week in a flex, you are starting 3 wide receivers every week and 2 flex spots. So, man, in general, I like the way you constructed this roster, but I don't think any more wide receiver depth could hurt. And yeah, I mean, Kenny Golladay, just a locked and loaded wide receiver 1 going forward. Jamison Crowder is currently the number 2 wide receiver in terms of points per game in 2020. Some running backs that are projected to get volume. Robert Tonyan, I personally believe, is a sell high with Devontae Adams coming back, but Tyler Boyd is also a perfect guy for this format. I'm actually going to end up giving this roster, I believe... I think that we're going to give it a B+, knowing that you are getting Russell Wilson returning, knowing that you are getting Alvin Kamara back. And I will say, having Ben Roethlisberger as the secondary quarterback on this team is such a luxury, where I think you could possibly even afford to go out there and trade away Russell Wilson at a premium to get some more depth at the wide receiver and running back position. But that's just an optional thing that having Ben Roethlisberger as your second quarterback really provides. Okay. But thank you guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. I'm going to be bringing you a video like this every single week. And now on Instagram for tomorrow, I'm going to be taking trade questions. Just don't randomly send them to me, because they're going to get lost. Make sure you're swiping up on my story and sending them my way. That way, just wait until it's on the story, and then you will be able to go out there and see it. And lastly, we will do our start-sit listener question video on Saturday. That will also be through Instagram, and that Instagram will be found down below in the comments or the description of the video. But thank you guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. I really hope y'all got something from it. As always, if y'all did, please make sure you go down there, drop a like, subscribe, and I hope to see you in the live stream Friday and Saturday night.